Hey, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about, is Bitcoin a good investment right now? We've got some breaking news I want to share with you, but this is going to be incredible. By the way, if you want to earn passive cryptocurrency, be sure to go down in the description, subscribe to our Crypto Passive Profits newsletter. And if you want to hear from someone who believes in the future of this technology, is always following the space closely, loves to comment it, and really believes that the greatest transfer of wealth is on its way, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Be sure to hit that like button. Thank you so much for watching. Let's get into this today. Is Bitcoin a great investment or good investment right now? First off, we got to take a look at this. This is an awesome article that I just saw. For years, JP Morgan was skeptical of Bitcoin. Now the bank's analysts say its value could triple, challenging gold. Let's talk about this for just a moment. I got to quickly point out this picture right here. Did you know in 2009, if you'd invested $100 in Bitcoin, during that same time period, had you invested in Alibaba, you would have $208. If you would have invested in Facebook, you would have had $520. If you invested $100 into Apple, you would have $2,400. What about Amazon? Who wouldn't love to wish they could have invested in Amazon in 2009? $100 in Amazon would have had you $3,300 right now. But had you invested $100 in 2009 into Bitcoin, then at this very moment, you would have $9.2 million. That's not a typo, ladies and gentlemen. This technology is here today, and it's going to continue to grow in the future. Now, I don't think it's going to do that kind of growth, but we are in the early stages, not financial advice. When you say, is it a good investment right now? Well, I'm going to show you why. We're going to discuss that in this video. But in my personal opinion, for myself and my family, the answer to that is yes. You'll have to make that decision for yourself and your family. So let's get back into this news story. So JP Morgan was skeptical of Bitcoin. Now, you may not know this, but Jamie Dimon, the CEO, famously called Bitcoin a fraud. Take a look at this.
Bitcoin. I don't know why I said anything about it. The blockchain is a technology, which is a good technology. We actually use it. It will be used for a lot of different things. God bless the blockchain. Cryptocurrencies and digital currencies, I think are also fine. JP Morgan moves $6 trillion around the world every day. We don't do it in cash. It's done digitally. If it can be done.
Please keep in mind that he tried to call digital currency and cryptocurrency the same thing. They're not the same thing. The technology for what makes something a cryptocurrency is because it has a decentralized blockchain that is trustless and immutable. Those are three important terms. But notice here, he tries to make the distinction that cryptocurrency and digital currency are the same thing. They absolutely are not. But let's keep watching.
Digitally with the blockchain, so be it. But it'll still be a dollar cryptocurrency. What I have an issue with is a non-fiat cryptocurrency. Dollar, so crypto, sterling, euro, yen, they're all fine. I don't personally understand the value of something that has no actual value. You all can do whatever you want, and I don't care. Okay?
All right. That sounds definitive. Bitcoin hit a new high today.
I could care less what Bitcoin trades for, how it trades, why it trades, who trades it. If you're stupid enough to buy it, you'll pay the price for it one day. I've also told people that it can trade at $100,000 before it trades to zero. Tulip bulbs traded for $75,000 once, something like that. The only value of a Bitcoin is what the other guy will pay for it. And I think, honestly, there's a good chance that Bitcoin, a lot of the buyers out there are up there jazzing up every day so that maybe you'll buy it too and take them out. And I quite mean that, by the way. These people are very good at manipulating the press these days and getting news out.
People are very good at manipulating the press. Remember that.
So every day, you have CNBC, nonstop Bitcoin. Who cares about Bitcoin? I mean, the world economy is so big. We move, JP Morgan alone, these companies, $6 trillion. We move all this money. And Bitcoin in total is, all these currencies are $50 billion, maybe $1 billion trades a day. And the other thing I've always made of Bitcoin, governments, and this is not a technological statement, governments are going to crush it one day. Governments like to.
That's correct. Governments are going to try to crush it one day. I have a video coming up about that a little bit later on my channel. Be sure to subscribe if you want to hear how governments are going to attempt to try to crush Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. However, mark my words, they will not succeed, and I can prove it to you. I'll make a strong argument. You don't want to miss that video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification icon. Let's get back to Jamie Dimon. He's talking please keep in mind, notice the strong words he's using. This guy is so sincere in his beliefs, you would think.
To know where the money is, who has it and what you're doing with it. And in case you haven't noticed, okay? And governments like to control their currency, like to control their own economy. So China's already put curbs on it. Japan, they say Japan accepted Bitcoin. No, they didn't. What I gathered Japan did was they call it J-coin. It's a yen cryptocurrency. It's not a non-fiat. There's a big difference. People have said legitimately, okay, it's close to gold. Not really. Gold is limited and has been around a long time. And it's
Notice he said, see, here's the problem. And he really doesn't understand Bitcoin. He said gold is limited. Bitcoin is more limited than gold. You can always they're always discovering new gold. There's mining new gold today. It's semi-limited. It's not an absolute limited supply of gold. We're still finding new gold all the time. There's a limited supply of Bitcoin. We already know there will only be 21 Bitcoin ever mined or created.
It's close to a fiat currency, not really. A fiat currency is where the government says, this is your legal tender. You have to give it and accept it. And there's a central bank. Now, of course, they can misuse it, the central bank, and inflate it. So there is a use case for Bitcoin. If you live in Venezuela, North Korea.
He says this right here. This is important. Is Bitcoin a good investment? He says if governments inflate it or abuse it, then yes, there's a use case for it. Now, mind you, what he's saying there is in some cases there would be a use case for it if you thought the government was going to abuse the currency. So the question is, are the U.S. government currently abusing our currency? Hang on to that. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
If you're a criminal, great product.
They always like to say Bitcoin is good, which is not, by the way, for current criminals because they can follow transactions. They always say that. It's really not good. And they know that when they say it, by the way. The irony here is the U.S. dollar is used by far more criminals than Bitcoin ever. Notice the irony of that. Let's keep going.
I mean that. It's better than cash or deposits in that country, Cuba. But this is the last time I'm ever going to answer a question about Bitcoin because I really don't care. I also pointed out when I made that stupid statement, which got all the thing, I called it fraud, my daughter sent me an email saying, Dad, I own 2 Bitcoins. My formerly smart daughter.
Just after he said this, within 2 weeks later of saying this, after the boss calls Bitcoin a fraud, JP Morgan buys Bitcoin. Can you believe that? Just within a couple of weeks. Just recently, News.com reported that JP Morgan executive Jamie Dimon calling Bitcoin a fraud and claiming he would fire any employee from his firm who traded the digital currency for being stupid. Now it seems JP Morgan is caught red-handed purchasing a bunch of XBT shares, otherwise known as exchange-traded notes that track the price of Bitcoin. Isn't it the irony? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, these big banker types, they don't want you getting access to this. They don't want me getting access to this. They want to keep this technology and keep these profits for themselves. Let's take a look at this article. So a team of analysts at JP Morgan Global Market Strategy Group are touting Bitcoin's imminence as an alternative to gold among millennials, suggesting a doubling or tripling in the price of the currency if current trends continue. The prediction, which came in a research note published on Friday, is remarkable given that the bank's one-time skepticism towards Bitcoin, which included CEO Jamie Dimon calling it a fraud, which you just looked at. JP Morgan's bullish stance is driven in part by PayPal's recent decision to offer Bitcoin to its customers and Square's recent move to add $50 million of the cryptocurrency to its balance sheet. Another major factor for its position, though, is a demographic trend in which younger generations are choosing Bitcoin over gold. The older cohorts prefer gold, while the younger cohorts prefer Bitcoin as an alternative currency, says the research note. Of course they do. Listen, Bitcoin is, I love gold and I love silver and precious metals, but the reality is Bitcoin is far better in almost every way than gold. And I'll tell you why. The only difference is you don't hold Bitcoin in your hand, which is good because when you hold it in your hand, it means you've got to be able to ship it. You take countries, for example, that historically in the past have backed their dollars by gold. That's a security risk trying to hold that gold. It's the same thing for you in your house. It's easier for you to hide, to hold, to keep 50 Bitcoin or $50,000 worth of Bitcoin as opposed to $50,000 worth of gold, $1,000 worth of gold, $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. It's far easier to hold that, to secure that, to keep that than it is all of that gold or all that precious metal. There's no transportation cost. There's practically no transaction cost compared to gold. I mean, if you're going to ship gold, there's shipping fees. Anyone who's invested in gold at all knows that there's storage fees for gold. It's like 0.4% or whatever they charge you in storage fees. You don't get storage fees on your cryptocurrency. In fact, you can store it at your house on something the size of a thumb drive. Literally, there's a way you can store it on a sheet of paper. It's called a paper wallet. So is Bitcoin a good investment right now? I think it's the only technology or the only financial instrument or asset that potentially can solve this problem that is taking place right now. In fact, I don't even think gold can effectively solve this problem. And the problem is the national debt. There's a lot of issues here. First of all, in order for the U.S. government to continue to pay their bills, they're going to have to continue to inflate their currency. Right now, our GDP, if you look at GDP, is basically a country's paycheck. The revenue is essentially that the country creates. So if the GDP is the country's paycheck, our debt in 1960 was 50% of the paycheck, meaning we had about 48% left over. In 1980, our bills were 34% of our paycheck. In 2000, it's back up to 55% of our paycheck, which is a lot. Now, our bills are 137% of our paycheck. So if you made essentially $1,000 a week, then it would be like owing $1,300 a week on your debts. So we literally are not bringing in enough. Now, how do we get out of this? We continue to borrow money, but who's going to continue to loan us money when this number gets even higher? They loan us money right now because it's literally like a Ponzi scheme. If you ever notice the early stages of a Ponzi scheme, they always pay the money out. We're going to pay you X percent, 10% a year or whatever. And you assume that they're making money on their investments because they keep paying you the 10%. They keep paying you the 10%. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, they can't pay you anymore because they owe too many people money and there's not enough money available. Here, at some point, people stop lending money. So what happens? Well, initially the U.S. government's going to print. This is important to understand because when this happens, when they print money like that, it devalues your savings. So if you're planning to retire one day, this is the way I look at it for my family. Planning to retire one day, you save up $100,000 for retirement. But what if that dollar only has 10% of the purchasing power? You see, the dollar has been devalued since I think the 1930s, something like 95% of its purchasing power. People think, how come that candy bar only cost a quarter when my grandma bought it? Well, it's not because the candy got more expensive. It's because the dollar became less valuable that bought the same candy bar. And so the buying power of the dollar went down. So you work hard, you save, you try to be smart, you try to be frugal, you try to save money, you save $100,000 for retirement or $1 million for retirement, only to get to retirement, and that $1 million now will only buy the same thing that $50,000 would have bought 30, 40 years earlier. So you lose your savings when government starts inflating. So I think, in my personal opinion, I believe that Bitcoin will be a far greater, far better investment compared to the dollar and compared to gold because it's more transportable. It's easier to secure. It's easier to protect. That's my beliefs for me personally. Again, I can't tell you what to do. Do your own research. I'm not your financial advisor, but this is why I think that Bitcoin is a good investment right now. And obviously, I'm not the only one that thinks so. I mean, you got to understand there's companies right here. That's our U.S. debt, by the way. That's who we borrow money from. These are all companies that right now at this very moment have invested into Bitcoin. Now, here's the thing. They've put in about $6.3 billion into Bitcoin. Currently has a valuation at the time of this chart, which is probably higher. Actually, I know it's higher. I just did the math. Bitcoin's trading around $13,000. On $13,000, this number is $7.7 billion. So it's only a matter of time, I believe, when this number starts to get to 8.7 billion, 9.7 million, 10.7 million. When that starts to happen, if these companies haven't already started to invest more, when you start realizing that this is an asset that large corporations who are always looking for ways to be able to hold and store value can potentially store a value that's going to in an asset that's going up. Not to mention the biggest buyer in here is an investment company. When that investment company's returns are sky high, where that? Grayscale. Grayscale has 2.2% of this entire thing. So they're by far the largest holder. But when Grayscale, when their returns end up hitting, massive returns, I promise you there's going to be other investment banks coming in here. Plus, so when you say, is Bitcoin a good investment right now? I think these other companies are going to help confirm that it is. I think they're going to potentially push the price up. Remember, there's only a limited number of Bitcoin. As large money players come in, it's going to drastically push the price up. Never mind the fact of what happens if a country says, say China says, I showed you this chart here briefly. China holds 15% of all U.S. debt. Supposedly, the media would tell you that we're in this trade war with China. We're not technically in any economic war with China. And if we are, China's winning because we need them to loan us money. They have to loan us money. People are out of work. They want stimulus checks. The government can't afford that stimulus check. They don't have money. People say the government should pay for it. The only way the government gets money is they take it from you in taxes. There is no magic bank. The only way governments get money is by taking it from you through taxation. Whether you agree or disagree with taxes, that's how they get money. That's how they get money. What was it? 50 Cent recently said that he was going to change voting for political parties because his tax rate was going to go up to 62%. That's his taxes. That's how they are going to pay out stimulus checks. That's how they're going to fund the military. It's how they're going to pay for Medicaid, Social Security, building roads. That's how governments do it. But right now, the U.S. government needs all these countries to loan them money so they can keep doing those things. At some point, these countries get tired. They get concerned about holding the U.S. dollar. At some point, they're going to think, you know what? I just don't know what the U.S. is going to do. They're either going to devalue the currency. So why would I want to hold, same reason you wouldn't want to have too much money in US dollars alone. You'd prefer to hold it in some sort of asset, real estate, stocks, cryptocurrency, some sort of metals, something, because you know that the US government is going to inflate their currency. So China's like, they're either going to inflate it or they're going to default. Either way, it's some form of default. So I don't want to keep holding US dollars. Let me stop buying their treasuries. That's how they loan them money. They buy treasury notes, which essentially is a loan. They're going to stop buying treasuries or slow down. So what are they going to do? Well, here's what's interesting. China and the U.S. have both of them have already researched their own digital currency. Now, I believe this is actually going to be, the powers that be know that this is unsustainable. They cannot, first time I did a video on this channel a couple years ago, I think this was 21 trillion, 22 trillion. We're already up to 27 trillion, 137% of our bills. Our debts are 37% more than our paycheck, essentially, as a country. And so I think the government's going to look to renegotiate some of their debts. And I think one of the ways they may attempt to do it is by use of something called the Fed coin. Or worse, they could straight revolt and just default and be like, hey, we're using the Fed coin. That would be kind of crazy if they did that. But they're not the only ones doing this. The U.S. government's working on the Fed coin. I have a whole video talking about the Fed coin. I'll link that above. I'll put it down in the description. But also, China has their own digital yuan test. In fact, China's moving faster than the U.S. Some talks are that the U.S. is going to have the Fed coin out possibly as early as next year. And plenty of people are saying that the digital yuan, is going to go out even faster. Now, again, these are not decentralized, trustless, immutable blockchain cryptocurrencies. They are private blockchain cryptocurrencies that are controlled by the respective governments, which means they can still inflate them. If you want to understand the pros and cons to a federal coin, a federal digital currency, watch my video on FedCoin, for example. The point is, one thing that you may say, but this isn't this negative for Bitcoin, only in the short term. I think this is going to create awareness to the masses. For the first time ever, they're going to transact with a digital currency. They're going to understand some of the technology behind it, some of the security behind it on a level they have not done so before. And when they get ready to say, hey, I'm tired of the Fed coin, I want to find an alternative. There's an alternative that's been there the entire time all along. That alternative is Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, I believe cryptocurrency is a great investment right now. That's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the description. By the way, one of the other things about cryptocurrency that makes it so incredible is not only the amount that it's going to go up. There's so many ways to be able to generate a profit with cryptocurrency right now. And I believe that this is going to be the case for some time because companies who interact with cryptocurrency tend to oftentimes have a little bit lower overhead. They don't have to pay a lot of finance fees. They don't have to pay banks and and merchant partners as much. So there's a lot more revenue that's available for that you can literally earn a passive income with some of these companies. It's incredible. I mean, it genuinely is incredible. There's going to be tremendous price appreciation. There's ways to earn passive income through things like masternodes and staking coins. I'll be talking about that in a future video. Be sure to subscribe. Also, the business opportunities that exist around cryptocurrency, the areas of education, there's so much education that's going to be needed and is necessary in the cryptocurrency space. Tech developers, technical jobs, there's a whole new economy getting created. Marketing, just for marketing alone, there's unique marketing strategies and unique marketing methods with cryptocurrency that have not existed before in some ways. Cryptocurrency entertainment based on this industry. There used to be a crypto comedy YouTube channel, and it was hilarious, but it was ahead of its time. I believe we're going to see more of that in the future. The way finances are done, taxes are done, expertise, teaching people how to do their cryptocurrency-based taxes. I mean, there's a whole project development that's coming along and a whole industry that's taking place. If you want to learn how to get in this space early, how to start building an income, a passive income with cryptocurrency, I have an entire course that I'm literally developing right now, and it's going to go up to $29.99 a month. But right now it's $10 a month. It's currently in development. This is the easiest way that I know of that the average person can be able to start doing affiliate marketing in cryptocurrency and literally have other companies pay you in cryptocurrency. If you want to know more about that, be sure to go down in the description, subscribe. I'll link it down there, our Crypto Passive Profits course. It's really a course, a monthly membership. There's a whole community over there. By far, if you want to get a jump on this industry, if you want to be here before everyone else, then I highly recommend that you go ahead and subscribe. Now listen, this isn't financial advice. I can't tell you that you should purchase cryptocurrency, but I can tell you you should absolutely start educating yourself in this space. That includes educating yourself on how to be able to start building a business in the cryptocurrency space. Be sure to subscribe down below. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Crypto Wealth. I believe crypto equals freedom. I'm out.